Okay, CFL, now watch what Ta'amu does right here. He's going to lead his receiver and place it where no one else can get it, and he's on the run. I love that. Touchdown, defenders. Defense felt optional in this championship game, so let's just give it up to the efficient and masterful performance of Jordan Ta'amu. Oddly, it was the defenders who dominated the run game, and the passing game was as perfect as a play caller would have wanted. There were 2 tackles for loss and 2 sacks additionally to help complicate things for the Panthers offense. I guess as long as you get to the playoffs, that is what matters, seeing as the defenders look to be the weakest team heading into the UFL championship, truth be told. Now, Bryce Perkins threw the ball poorly despite racking up a lot of yards. We'll get into the stats, and you'll see that for yourself. Michigan's running attack did their part, but the defenders' running attack did their part and then some. But that's beside the point. The pressure provided by the Panthers didn't faze Ta'amu because there wasn't much pressure to be had. And whenever there was, Ta'amu sort of shrugged it off and threw the ball very well. The defenses for both teams seemed to play a tier lower of football than either team's offense, despite the praise I gave to the defenders for their pressures. It came down to the unexpectedly strong defender rush attack, keeping the Panthers on their heels, with Ta'amu striking them hard downfield. I feel as though that Ta'amu is a legitimate talent that can go to the NFL. And a lot of people say that about Perkins, and I'm sure you're going to hear a lot more people saying the same of Jordan Ta'amu heading into the future as well. Next slide. Now look at how the Panthers gashed them here. Look at the defenders give up at the end, though. They're like, okay, we're done. Let's just go back on offense. And I think they're going to have a second clip here where they're going to show you a different angle right here. Yeah, there's gap integrity. It's just that this guy, 95, didn't make his tackle. And number 5's like, you're too big for me to hit. What's glaring is that 60% accuracy. And sure, 338 yards is still good, and so is 4 touchdowns. My issue is that it was mostly on Bryce Perkins to pull through, despite the Panthers leaning on him in the back end of the season. People will be... I don't feel this way, but people will be right to ask if the stage was too bright despite it not being on an NFL Sunday. The running attack gained the requisite amount of yards. Perkins did favor 2 receivers that could be schemed against easily. If you look at TGT, that's targets on the receiver end of things. While their defense, to be clear, was just there hoping the defenders would trip up more than being the catalyst to pressure, forcing errors, hitting people, making them uncomfortable doing their jobs on offense. So that's just my view of the Panthers' play in this UFL championship. Now look at this. Ta'amu just throws a perfect pass. He's leading the receiver. It's where no one else can grab it. It's a touchdown. You can tell already. Touchdown, defenders. 75% is different, and I mean different. Yes, he's playing in the NFL would be lower, I think, if he played in the NFL. But that is just most likely out of defensive pressures alone when you think about it. There was less pressures towards Ta'amu than there were to Bryce Perkins. But if either team were playing up against an NFL defense or even the upper quartile, I'm saying the top 25% in the CFL, there would have been more defense. And that's hard to say as an American that our semi-pro, well, actually it's kind of rude of me as an American when you think about it. Our semi-pro team is able to beat most of the defenses of your top level CFL. So that's actually rude on my end. But needless to say, if either quarterback had great offenses and they still played in the NFL, let's say they're playing for a competent team like the Ravens, and they're the quarterback taking over, and they're throwing the ball, they're going to get hit more. They're going to get rushed more. They're going to get hurried. They're going to have wide receivers get knocked out. Well, not like it was in the 90s, but still, the defense is going to let them know that they're there more than at the UFL level. So just yeah, our semi-pros best teams are probably better than 75% of the CFL defenses. That just saying, since I'm covering both of those leagues, the NFL, college football, you know the drill. Now, just look at what those runners did to the Panthers defense. Even without the scrambles by Jordan Ta'amu, having the ability for him to prolong in the pocket, but also keeping the defense honest on his own with his feet, you'll see that what I'm criticizing with the CFL scramblers, I'm pointing out that the rushing attack can keep the defense honest. Defenders can keep the defense honest with the rushing attack, but also, optionally, Jordan Ta'amu can scramble for a few yards too. Now, the defenders, despite their record, have a complete offense, in my opinion. It's just that the defense can get a lot better, paradoxically, despite being called the defenders and being the defending champions of the UFL. Nonetheless, they got home on Bryce Perkins. Look at how even those targets are by Jordan to his receivers. Jordan Ta'amu, he has it more spread out. He's targeting more people with reception opportunities. It was just an excellent showcase. He's going to get a look at the higher level, despite Bryce Perkins being the one getting the Gruden interview. Now check this one out. Bryce Perkins makes an unforced error mostly. I mean, yeah, he's getting rushed. He's throwing on the run. But look at this one. He could have just thrown it away. He was outside the tackle box. He could have taken the hit. It's very bad. Very bad. You know you had time to throw the ball away. Some chippiness here. We like to see that. Who doesn't like to see that? I like seeing that. Sorry about the phone there. I'm also on call a little bit here. But you know what's glaring? Take a look at those total rush yards in comparison from the DC Defenders to the Michigan Panthers. They basically ran 200 yards. Not literally, but functionally. One team ran 100, the other one ran 200. There's a bit of difference. And you see it at the top with the total yards. Now, even the passing yards is an elevation higher than Michigan's team, as it turned out. The third down conversions and the fourth down conversions, if you combine them, are 7 for 12, whereas it's 3 out of 10 for the Michigan Panthers. Total plays is indicative. Time of possession really isn't, but there's 2 turnovers for the Panthers. It's very terrible. And then there you see the 2 sacks and the 2 tackles for loss versus the half a sack for both people. Not great, as the DC Defenders really stomped on them in the end there, didn't they? Besides that, there isn't very much to glean from this end of game stat line. So let's move along, shall we? Now it's less prescient, and I should just give them their flowers, but I'm going to give them what might not seem like a glowing review, but I think that it is. I think if they played American football or if they played Canadian football, the DC Defenders would have probably defeated the Rough Riders of Saskatchewan. I don't think. Now, this is where it doesn't sound like a compliment, because I think that the Montreal Alouettes would just wipe the floor with them. I'm just honest about it. This is probably the wrong time to be saying all that. But, this team was the weakest team in that semifinal. They beat the Battlehawks, who had a 6-game win streak, while the Michigan Panthers, they upset their sides. They won against their favorite as well. It's just that the Defenders, I think that they can get better. I want to see a stronger defense. They can build on this offense if they can retain some players from the NFL, namely Jordan Ta'amu, if he goes. That's a big chunk of it. I like how their rush attack got a lot better. from their initial meeting with the Michigan Panthers, how it got better even against the Battlehawks into this championship. Defenders have a bunch of upside. A lot of that rushing attack's going to stay in the UFL. The NFL sort of just takes the class of it, even though running backs are kind of like chaff a little bit, if we're honest. Let's go ahead and leave you with this last clip to send you off with. Look at this amazing spiral. Now, he doesn't lead his wide receiver that far, but look how much airtime that ball has. Oh, he does put it in a place where no one else can get it. I'm really like this Jordan Ta'amu.